We're going to be continuing to talk about retrieval toys, and I'm going to cover a couple other retrieval toys out there. Along that line, there are going to be some that I'm going to put into another subject, which we can talk about later, but I'm going to keep this subject of our retrieval toys primarily to uh, are bumpers and frisbees. So, what are bumpers and what are frisbees? Bumpers are something we often see in the hunting world. We see it a lot. These are often toys that are meant to float. They typically are longer, and there's usually a rope hanging from them, but sometimes there's not. All right, the point of the rope is to allow you to toss it, almost like a chuck it. It gives you leverage. And once again, it is usually a floating toy. I love bumpers for retrieve. It's something that later on can be turned or slowly adjusted over to like a dummy bumper. If you're introducing a dog to building soft mouth retrieval for hunting work or retrieval work for ducks or other types of birds or animals, we can build that up, but we'll usually start with bumpers. Usually there are a wide variety. I'm a big fan of looking up reviews through gun dog supply companies. In fact, Gun Dog Supply is a great place to go for that. If you want to find out some of the advantages, why they're rated, what people like about them. Some float better, some take more abuse, some are heavier, some are lighter. And so there's not a whole lot more to say. If you're going with a bumper and you have a training goal in mind, once again, avoid allowing the dog to self-satisfy is the really, really important part of this. Okay. This is an interactive toy. If you're first introducing the puppy to going into water, I recommend tossing very small tosses so that they slowly get their confidence. You're not going to take a puppy that's never been above where they can touch in water and just throw that out there and expect the puppy just to go the first time. So slow introductions to that are important. Not going to go a whole lot further into that one. It's pretty straightforward. I am going to go into frisbees. So frisbees are a big one for me, and there's several different things you want to know. First off, for most puppies, they have horrible targeting skills. What is targeting skills? This is simply, it's kind of like hand-eye coordination, but it's more like mouth-eye coordination, right? So we have a dog that, we've all seen that dog that like people are throwing food at and it's like smacking them in the side of the face and the dog can't catch. Okay, there are some dogs that just are horribly inept, okay, at this. But this is a skill you can actually teach and develop over time. And so that is important as well. Starting small and working faster. For most puppies, they don't have great targeting skills, great coordination. They're still developing. So if you're introducing your puppy to a frisbee, I'm going to much more recommend that you go with something soft edged, maybe one of the fabric ones with a little bit of a foamed edge. Here's why. If you think about it, for a dog who hasn't learned to target, frisbees come hard and fast. Okay, typically with a frisbee, we're tossing it like to the dog. And so when we're first doing this and our dog's first learning to catch a frisbee, if I'm using a hard-edged frisbee, it might bonk them in the nose and they may get discouraged and give up. It also allows them to more easily experiment with picking up the toy off the ground, because when frisbees land flat, for a lot of dogs on a smooth surface, this can be very difficult for them to pick up, and something that takes a little bit of maneuvering. I've seen a lot of dogs struggle with that. So starting with a little bit thicker, a little bit softer, it's going to prevent us from scaring our dog from the activity. It's going to make it easier for our dog to pick up and then reinforce and build confidence in that before moving to something different. Now, if I have a more intense dog, and my dog started with a very soft frisbee, we also used a flimsy frisbee. The flimsy frisbees I don't think fly quite as well, but they're fine. I think they also are more likely that our dog will fold it over and try to chew it up. So please watch for that once again, that self-satisfaction kind of behavior. In terms of my dog, eventually we play tug with the frisbee and we toss the frisbee and he retrieves the frisbee and he's really into it, but he's got a very intense grip. And so what I found is with the softer Frisbees, there'd be a tendency to want to like nitpick the fabrics, right? He's just a very destructive kind of puppy when he was younger. And we're saying, let's say, you know, he went from puppy to a little bit older puppy, so more adolescent. So he moved into adolescence. It didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to keep with a fabric or a soft Frisbee. This is where I really recommend something like a Jaws disc. First off, these things are virtually indestructible. I've had for mine for at least 11 years, if not almost 15 years. I've had mine for a really long time. They're puncture proof. The amount and the size and the strength of the dogs that I've had tug with me on that Frisbee, the thing's virtually indestructible. Okay, if I take a regular Frisbee that I buy for human usage, and I toss it to my dog will bite right through the Frisbee. It'll shatter into pieces. Okay, that's not one where, you know, I expect him to be super soft gripped. This is not a competition dog for that purpose, but because that is something that we like to do, a regular Frisbee is just not a great choice. So I do really highly recommend the Jaws disc, but if you've got a puppy, they're very hard or edged. So if your dog is not good at catching it yet, don't move to the Jaws, because it simply, if it bumps their nose or clocks them and they miss it wrong, it could discourage them or punish them from wanting to play the game. So I will show a few of those Frisbees, soft, flimsy, and the Jaws disc. That's where I'll stop on this as far as it goes for bumpers and Frisbees. I'll show a picture of some bumpers as well before I jump into the Frisbees, but it will once again go soft, flimsy, and then we'll show the harder style Frisbee. Okay? In the very next video, we're going to be moving into the subject of tug toys. Also, one of my favorite subjects, and one that we can get way too in depth on, but I hope this will be helpful.